Um, so yeah, as Lynn mentioned, I am doing Master of Public Policy at the moment. But before coming to Melbourne, I actually work with ASEAN policymakers in the regions on innovation and sustainability on small and medium enterprises. But over time, I felt such a big disconnect. Policy conversations about inclusion and sustainability often far from the communities actually living on it. And that led me to a deeper question. What does sustainability look like when it starts from the ground up, from women, from culture, from places often left out of the policy frame? And that question led me back to Indonesia, where I came from. So in many rural areas across Indonesia, women artisans are the cultural and economic background of their communities, but they're facing an environmental crisis. Women weavers especially rely on nature to do their craft, such as cotton from the soil, dye from the forest leaf, and sun to dry the thread. But climate disruptions are shifting the season extremely. And on top of that, many young women are leaving the villages. The crafts are slowly disappearing. The World Business Council for Sustainable Development estimated that 70% of women SMEs and artisans in rural Indonesia are faced with economic instability due to climate change. Yet, they're leading the quiet revolutions in sustainability. How? Well, for women weavers, sustainability isn't a buzzword, it's embedded in their process. It means crafting clothes that can last 70 years, producing it from villages instead of factories, passing knowledge down through hands instead of handbooks. But their stories rarely make it to the policy table or global stage. And that's the problem I fell in love with. So with the immense support and guidance from Wattle Fellowship, I began working on a pilot project to train and develop climate resilient journey in weaving practice. I connect with one of Indonesia's first sustainability-focused craft school called RumahSukkhaCitta to co-develop community workshop aimed at helping women weavers to adapt to environmental changes. We explore techniques such as regenerative cotton farming to reduce the use of polyester-based threads, weather-sensitive dyeing, and the use of locally sourced materials. And to make this truly community-led, we piloted the Train the Trainer model, working with small group of women in Ambarawa and also learning from Baku Peduli, a grassroots weaving education center in Labuan Bajo, eastern of Indonesia. Together, we tried to design an adaptable training that addressed the constraint of climate disruptions, including also the daily balancing between farming and family duties for these women. But here's the challenge. Sustainability is slow. Just one fabric or textile in this ecosystem, like the skirts that I'm wearing, might show you a little bit, can take 180 days to make from planting the cotton to the final stitch. And add to that unpredictable weather, unpaid labor, and the deep cultural responsibilities. And suddenly, what I thought as training a community become navigating a system. But wait, here's the opportunity. Sustainability is slow. This slow process could also sustain up to 1,500 women across villages. It challenged my assumptions about scale and speed and shifted my perspective entirely. I begin to see that women aren't just participants in sustainability, they're infrastructure. They're building circular economy solutions that rooted in care, place, and practice. And their work really shows the economic potential of systems that are regenerative by design. One weaver's Mama Fellow told me this after our workshop. She said that I never heard the word sustainability before, but I've always cared about how we treat our craft. Sustainability isn't something far away. It's in our hands, it's in our choices. And I want our craft to be something that heals and not harms. Beyond the workshop, I began documenting their stories and creating digital journal to highlight the resilience of these women. Because I think if policy is to be inclusive, it needs to be informed by lived experience. And if climate adaptation is to be just, it must include the voices of the very communities that craft the sustainable solution every day. So what's next? I'm excited to share with you this QR code, which you can scan, and you can look into the initial documented journey, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it more. And looking ahead, I'm also working to expand the training to the next generation of women weavers, hopefully at the end of this year. And we want to replicate that sort of method in different type of villages in Indonesia. So what happens when a piece of fabric tells your story? One key takeaway that I wish to share with you all through this experience and also my learning in Wattle is that climate solutions don't always come from the top, but sometimes it is already embedded in the community that often overlooked in the process. And in this case, it is in the hand of women who refuse to let their culture unravel. And I think that could be us too, as we rethink and what sustainability really means to us in our everyday life. Thank you.